And I must say thank you again so much. This is a wonderful, wonderful book, and one I had never seen before. We do
Really?
have
Wow.
we do have a register and record which doesn't look like this. Is a bit thicker than this one, and it sort of, and it's interesting to see how they sort of documented years gone by, how each year group almost was documented. Nowadays, or say nowadays, the school sadly closed in 1998, but up until 92 they had really good records, but they were done by name, so you could literally go through, find a certain person's name, and they would be there, and then you could go to the reference and see what they'd won at school, all those kind of things. But this is truly remarkable, and what was in it, which you also referred to in your first email to me, was extraordinary. The letter, which highlights Longhurst's, intrinsic part of the OH club right at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, and it was one of the things that interested me about him because I mean, again, it's always a bit difficult to know how he felt about certain things, but you obviously get the sense that he was, well, he obviously, I think he was quite keen in setting up the club, and I think he obviously looked back on his time at school quite positively. Otherwise, I don't think he would have done it, and yeah, I think he then like is really trying to like piece together all the people across the country, and it must have been quite, if you think about the days before Facebook, before emails, where people could just sort of distribute across the country and even the world, or it must have been a real challenge to try and find some of these people.
And there's some lovely lines in that letter, where he refers to a particular person. He says might show up, and things like that. There was a bit like, it was a bit like, how we used to experience phoning somebody at their home. They might be there, they might not. It's taking it back another level. Well, they might do, and it's documenting it. And I think that's what's fascinating. It shows a real, not only passion for the club, but a sort of wanting to bring people together, which is essentially what we do now, even though the school's been closed nearly 30 years. So that's really remarkable. And the fact we didn't know much about him, you really gave a real insight into the very early part of our club. So for that, we are very grateful.
Oh no, it was just came out. I mean, he was interested. He's a figure that interested me. And when I saw that book, I saw it on that sort of Oxfam website, and I remember being like, "Oh wow, I can't believe," like, because it said it had a letter from him in it, and I was like, "Oh." You get the sense he was a real. Whenever you read any of his stuff, that one thing you do get a sense of is that he was a real sports fan. So he loved cricket. I think he played rugby as well. And in one of the really funny things that I think happened when the expedition was about to leave was Cyril Longhurst looks really sad when the expedition is about to leave, and I think partly this is because he's saying goodbye to all his friends, but partly it was also because he was so busy that he wasn't able to go and watch a cricket match, and so they were saying, and he was very annoyed about this. So you do get a sense that he
A real character.
yeah, real character.
I really like that, and I think we learn about these people through research, like you've done, and I think that's what's key to these things, because we all heard about Scott of the Antarctic. It's almost a sort of common phrase that people would use now. It becomes something else other than just them. It's sort of almost the challenge of being an adventurer. You say, oh, like Scott. Whether you know much about him or know much about what he did, it is remarkable, but ultimately, a lot of the people who are in the background too, like Cyril, it's wonderful that you're bringing them to life and bringing and shining a light on them, if you like.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think what I was trying to do is just move a bit beyond the myth of Scott and this expedition. Scott features obviously a lot in the book, and so does Shackleton. But I just want to put them in their context amongst all the different people they were interacting with and working with to organise this expedition.
And I think that is a truly wonderful thing. And as a book, going forward, as in sport, are you already working on the next thing, or are you just working on getting this one? What's the next thing?
I've got some ideas for the next book. I'm kind of interested. During my PhD research, I looked a lot at kind of people. Yeah, it was continuing this kind of like line of people who do interesting or incredible things but don't become famous. So I kind of would like to write something about that, about explorers you don't know about who did equally interesting things.
And there are probably many of those, as we know in life itself, that there's the one or two that get the limelight, and beyond that, there's so many others that have fascinating characters and do amazing things that aren't necessarily written about, and and you need to sort of bring them to the fore to let people know a bit more about them. So that's fascinating. Well, Cyril Longhurst is now within the great canon of OHs, and I will add him to all the various things. And I love the look of the book, and I will be getting a copy of it, and we'll also be directing OHs to be able to get a copy of it. Of course. And because as I say, when I spoke to a number of people, their reaction was, "Who?" And I was like, "You're the same as me, and I think this is somebody we really need to know a lot more about." And thanks to you, we do now. And I think that with the remarkable opportunity to have this as well, so thank you. And that will go to our archive, which is at the All Hallows School Museum in Honiton itself. Because of course, while Honiton was the home of the school, most of us, including me, knew the school. All of us, pretty much now, knew the school at Roosden, which was an estate in on the Dorset-Devon border. Which is where many of all of us went to. But there are many other figures at school, and I think he will sit perfectly within that. Very adventurous, because I think the thing about All Hallows pupils that many were very adventurous and did things almost their own way.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see that that it's going to find a good home there.
We really appreciate the interview. Dr. Ed Armston, Sheret, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, lovely to meet you, David.